Welcome back to our Witcher survival series on Lore Panda channel. We've covered White Orchard, where Nilfgaardian occupation at least provided some structure. We survived Velen, no man's land, where the swamps, disease and monsters created a landscape of pure nightmare. Today, we're entering Novigrad, the Free City, the largest urban center in the Northern Kingdoms, home to over 30,000 souls, protected by ancient walls and powerful guilds. You might think that finally we've reached safety, civilization, a place where walls keep monsters out and laws keep people in line. Well, you'd be dangerously, fatally wrong. Novigrad was the place in The Witcher 3 that made me irreversibly obsessed with the game. Here, the monsters wear expensive clothes and quote scripture. Here, you die to politics, religious persecution, and systematic oppression, all perfectly legal, all wrapped in the language of justice and divine will. In Velen, you knew what wanted to kill you. In Novigrad, death comes from directions you never see, for reasons you don't understand, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. So how do you survive as a commoner in the Free City? Let's find out. Before we talk about survival, you need to understand what Novigrad is and why it matters. Novigrad sits at the mouth of the Pontar River Delta, where it meets the Great Sea, making it one of the most strategically important locations on the continent. Every trade route, river and maritime, flows through here. Goods from Skellige, Ophir, Zerikania, and beyond all pass through Novigrad's docks. The city controls the economic lifeblood of the Northern Kingdoms. While the city as a human powerhouse has been around for centuries, Novigrad was actually built on the ruins of an ancient elven settlement, likely a city called Drakenborg. Human settlers began occupying it during the first landing, which was roughly 500 years ago. The city is technically a free state, governed by its own ruling council, though the council is largely a puppet, or at least heavily shadowed by the hierarch, and the criminal underworld leaders, the Big Four. The population of over 30,000 makes it the largest urban center north of Nilfgaard. For comparison, most cities in the Northern Kingdoms have populations of 5,000 to 10,000. Novigrad dwarfs them all. The city is divided into several distinct districts: the wealthy merchant quarter of Gildorf, the working-class dock district, the slums known as the Bits, the temple quarter dominated by the Church of the Eternal Fire, and the non-human district. Militarily, Novigrad's massive walls make it nearly impregnable to conventional siege. The city has its own guard force, supplemented by the Temple Guard, the church's private army. During the current war, Novigrad has maintained its independence, though Nilfgaardian influence grows daily and Redanian spies operate throughout the city. But here's what really defines Novigrad in the current era. The Church of the Eternal Fire has seized effective control. The hierarch, the church's leader, wields more real power than the nominal city government. And the church is conducting what can only be called a reign of terror. The Church of the Eternal Fire wasn't always like this. Historically, it was one of several religious organizations in the city, influential but not dominant. Then came the war, the chaos, and the rise of hierarch Cyrus Engelkind Hemmelfart, a charismatic demagogue who transformed the church into a political force. The church's doctrine is simple: humans are the chosen people, magic is evil, non-humans are abominations, and the eternal fire will cleanse the world of impurity. This message resonates with a population terrified by war, monsters, and change. People want simple answers and clear enemies. The church provides both. The Temple Guard operates with absolute impunity. They're a private army numbering in the hundreds, answering only to the hierarch. They conduct raids on suspected heretics, confiscate property, arrest without warrant, and execute without trial. If they decide you're a witch, a magic sympathizer, or just inconvenient, you're dead. The pyres in Hierarch Square burn constantly, sometimes multiple times per day. The smoke of burning bodies is a permanent feature of the city's skyline. The church has executed hundreds, possibly thousands, of witches in recent months. Most are simply unfortunate people who attracted the wrong attention. healers who knew herbalism, midwives who were too successful, foreign merchants who competed with the right people's businesses, or simply neighbors accused by someone who wanted their property. For you as a commoner, this creates an environment of constant fear. Your best friend, your neighbor, even your family might inform on you, voluntarily to gain favor or under torture to save themselves. So what does daily life actually look like for a human commoner trying to survive in this environment? Your day starts before dawn. You wake in cramped quarters. If you're lucky, you rent a small room in a tenement. If you're typical, you share a room with multiple other workers or families. If you're poor, you sleep in a corner of a warehouse, a stable, or literally on the street. The church expects visible devotion. You attend morning prayers at a local shrine or chapel. You display the eternal fire symbol prominently. This isn't about personal faith, it's protective coloration. Lukewarm devotion attracts suspicion. Enthusiastic orthodoxy provides safety. Novigrad runs on labor, and that labor is brutally competitive. Thousands of refugees have flooded into the city from war-torn regions, creating massive labor surplus. This means wages are suppressed and working conditions are terrible because, you see, you're easily replaced. If you have a skilled trade, masonry, carpentry, smithing, tailoring, brewing, you can join a guild. Guild membership requires substantial fees, proof of skill, and connections. But once in, you have legal monopoly on your trade, collective bargaining power, and some protection. The guilds are corrupt and self-serving, but they're also the only functional labor organization. If you're unskilled, you compete for day labor on the docks, in warehouses, or in construction. You show up before dawn at hiring points where foremen select workers for the day. You might work, you might not. Payment is minimal, barely enough for food and shelter. Other options exist but come with moral and legal complications. The crime syndicates, the Big Four, always need muscle, lookouts, smugglers, and prostitutes. The pay is better than legitimate work, but you're entering a world of violence where arrest means execution and crossing your boss means a knife in the dark. The city is most active during daylight. You buy food. Bread, cheap fish, vegetables if you can afford them. Everything costs more than in peacetime because supply chains are disrupted and merchant guilds artificially inflate prices. Most laborers work 10 to 14-hour days. The sun is your clock. When it sets, work ends. Evening is for social capital. You spend time in taverns not for pleasure but for networking. Information flows in taverns. Which foremen are hiring, which areas are being raided, which temple guard commanders are more or less zealous, rumors about political changes. Night brings different dangers. The guard presence decreases. Crime syndicates operate more openly. Drunks and thugs prowl. You get home, bar your door, and try to sleep despite overcrowding, noise, and the constant low-level fear that characterizes life in Novigrad. And then you wake up and do it all again. Your survival depends on which district you can access. Gildorf, the wealthy quarter. Merchants, bankers, and church officials live here. You'll work as servant, cleaner, or maybe a guard. Better pay than docks, but you're completely vulnerable to employer whims. The dock district. Working-class Novigrad, where you'll likely end up. Brutal work loading ships, warehouses, fishing. Pay is survivable with consistent work. Crime syndicates control the area. Pay protection money, get actual protection. Workers form tight communities with real solidarity. This is your best realistic option. The bits, the slums, bottom of the hierarchy. Disease, malnutrition, no guard presence. The king of beggars provides minimal structure and you're competing with thousands for day labor. The temple quarter, church power center. Employment requires demonstrated devotion and accepts constant surveillance. Pay is reliable, but you're expendable, and any hint of disloyalty means the pyre. The non-human district, forced ghetto for elves and dwarves. Overcrowded, under-resourced, heavily patrolled, subject to periodic violence. For non-humans, escape the city or accept you're probably dying here. Humans have no reason to be here unless dealing with crime syndicates. With all these horrors, why would anyone choose Novigrad? Novigrad offers opportunities that nowhere else can match, starting with economic opportunity, where the city's functional, though corrupt economy allows skilled workers to build stable lives, successful merchants to become wealthy, and even unskilled laborers to find consistent work impossible in war-torn regions, as the massive labor demand for construction, docks, crafts, and services creates employment that rural areas or smaller towns simply cannot provide. The walls actually work unlike rural areas, genuinely keeping out monsters and armies so you won't be eaten by ghouls or drowned by drowners or wake to find Nilfgaardian soldiers burning your home. Also providing security from external threats, while also offering access to goods and services where everything is available if you have money. This can include food varieties, craftsmen who can create or repair anything, healers and physicians, entertainment, education, and the specialized skills and exotic goods that density and wealth create. Social mobility exists here in ways virtually impossible in feudal rural areas where birth determines destiny. As a skilled craftsman can become a guild master, a clever criminal can rise to syndicate leadership, and a devoted church employee can gain positions of influence. The city's massive population provides anonymity impossible in small communities, where you can disappear into crowds and maintain privacy. This can be important too. For many commoners, the calculation is simple. Novigrad is terrible, but everywhere else is worse, as at least here you might survive and possibly improve your position, while in Velen you're guaranteed to die slowly, whereas in Novigrad you might die quickly, but you might also actually live. Novigrad represents civilization at its worst, with laws protecting the powerful, religion as a weapon of terror, and order through systematic violence. Yet thousands survive by mastering performative devotion. Demonstrate religious orthodoxy enthusiastically, affiliate with guilds or syndicates, build information networks, never defend the accused or discuss politics, maintain multiple income streams, know escape routes, and flee immediately if accused. And by mastering these skills and accepting moral costs, you can build a life that won't be noble or comfortable, but will be life, which in the Witcher's world is the only victory that matters. If you made it this far and enjoyed, subscribe for the next episode, hit the like button, and leave a comment with survival tips. We need every advantage we can get. Next time, we're heading to Skellige, where the cold will kill you as surely as the raiders, and the culture is as harsh as the climate. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.